This isn't just BuzzFeed's laid off staff. Current employees at BuzzFeed are demanding that BuzzFeed pay out something they didn't actually owe to people. My God, millennials. Too many millennials are entitled. Okay. I saw something really interesting the other day on Twitter that said happiness, there's like a happiness equation of what you get versus the expectation of what you would get. There was also a study done where they gave like, what do they call, like capuchin monkeys? They had two monkeys and they gave each of them like a cucumber, but then gave one of them a grape and the other one freaked out like, whoa, why are they getting a grape? Because fairness is apparently like ingrained in us. But people don't understand fairness because it's all relative. So here we have a story. This was posted to Medium and it says, we demand BuzzFeed pay out earned paid time off to its recently laid off employees. Except what they don't tell you is that these employees took an agreement that my understanding is they got unlimited vacation days, okay? And I think this is not uncommon. A lot of these media companies know that you can work remotely. So they say, look, I don't know if it's true of BuzzFeed, but this is what's been accused, this is what people are saying, and I know that there are companies that have offered this to me, where they say, if you work here, you can up and leave whenever you want, go wherever you want for however long you want, period. Unlimited, infinite vacation. And the reason they do that is they know that they're hiring passionate people who want to do the work and they're more concerned about what they're doing as opposed to going and vacationing, but they allow you to vacation because they want you to be able to. Thus, you don't accrue paid time off because you have this extreme privilege. What they've said, apparently, is that they've offered compensation like severance in exchange for this because they recognize that some people, would naturally want this. However, because the people who work there don't understand a deal, they're freaking out. But let's read this because there's always different takes, different perspectives. I don't want to say two sides because there could be more. But they say, to Jonah Peretti, Lenky Taylor, and Ben Smith, we are the BuzzFeed News Staff Council, a group of employees appointed to open up the lines of communication between news employees and company management. We have urgent concerns about sweeping layoffs hitting the company, not just news. This letter is co-signed by current and laid-off staffers from across BuzzFeed who strongly share this concern. Every aspect of the way these layoffs has been handled so far, from communication to execution to aftermath, has been deeply upsetting and disturbing, and it will take a long time to repair the damage that has been done to our trust in this company. But there's one thing you can do right now to help the employees who are losing their jobs. BuzzFeed is refusing to pay out accrued and vested paid time off for almost all U.S. employees who have been laid off. They will only pay out PTO to employees in California where the law requires it. We understand that in other states where BuzzFeed employees have been laid off, state law does not require you to do so. But employers absolutely can pay out paid time off and often do. It's a choice, and for a company that has always prided itself on treating its employees well, we unequivocally believe it is the only justifiable choice. So, operating on this general statement that BuzzFeed is just refusing to pay people makes BuzzFeed look terrible. Wow, BuzzFeed, why would you do that? Pay people what they're owed. Pay them their fair share. However, there's probably more to this story. Now, of course, the business is going to negotiate for its best possible deal, but that also means that there's a give and take. If you join this company and you know they won't pay out PTO upon you leaving the company, why would you then go and demand it later? At least that's how it's kind of framed when we look at the statement from BuzzFeed, but we'll read it in a second. They say, this is paid time that employees accrued by choosing not to take vacation days and instead to do their work at BuzzFeed. Many of the employees who have been laid off had the most difficult jobs in terms of scheduling, such as the breaking and curation teams of BuzzFeed News, who regularly worked weekends and holidays, or managers who weren't able to use vacation time because they were expected to be available to their teams. They saved up those days or weeks because they were so dedicated to their work, and in some cases felt actively discouraged from taking time off. They have as much of a right to those days as anyone else. BuzzFeed provided severance. I believe they provided severance to everybody. So here's what happens. In my opinion, I could be wrong, this is just my perspective, a company says, you know what, we're going to give you 10 weeks of severance. How does that sound? They say, perfect. Then they find out later that they have a way to argue for more money, even though they already got a deal that they agreed with and thought was nice. This is something about humans. This is just something about how humans behave, right? I'll give you a personal anecdote. I once rented an apartment, and it cost me several $1,000s to get everything turned back on. It was a great deal on rent, because the previous tenants ran up utility bills and the bills couldn't be turned, you couldn't get water turned back on unless a huge deposit was put down. Because what happens is people will go in, they'll trash the place, and then once they get evicted or they have a huge bill from the water company, or I'm sorry, I believe it was electricity, it was gas, that's what it was. What happened, because you don't pay water as a tenant, the gas bill couldn't be turned back on. Once the bill got really big, they would claim they moved out and have someone else put it in their name and keep cycling through it and not paying the bill. So when you move in, they say, we need to deposit, the tenants were bad. So I dumped a ton of money, I saved up, and then when I was renting out one of the rooms, I said, the rent of this room is going to cost X. It was a great deal for the area. It was really cheap, but it was higher than what I was paying because it was covering the costs of me setting this apartment up and getting this deal in the first place. Essentially, I thought if I'm going to spend several $1,000s to get everything working again, then it's only fair that whoever moves in pays a little bit more to offset that. That's fair, right? It's not that I'm just taking more money for rent or paying less. It's that I put a huge deposit down and then they pay a little bit more than I do. Well, when they found out, I actually moved out, and later they found out they had been paying slightly more than other people, they flipped out. All of a sudden, this good deal wasn't good anymore. It was one of the hottest neighborhoods. They were paying like 60% of what other rent was. So not only was it a good deal, but they were in a hot neighborhood. But once they found out, regardless of any investment put in by any other person, they were outraged. How dare they? That's not fair. No, it is fair. It's just that you think you deserve more, and of course you're gonna argue for it. So they say, for many people, paying out paid time off will be the difference between whether or not bills and student loans will be paid on time and how their families are supported. It is unconscionable that Buzzfeed could justify doing so for some employees and not others in order to serve the company's bottom line. But we don't know who got what or why. It is entirely possible it's unfair, but I don't think things are ever that simple. I do think the business realized offering infinite vacation was a good deal because people won't take vacations and thus they don't have to pay out. Sure. But if you agree to that deal because you like the idea of having it at your disposal, why is it then their fault? If they offer you, and I'm not saying they did offer unlimited vacation, but that's what some people have said, and I could be wrong. The point is, if you don't take vacation and you know the deal and you take a deal on your way out, is it necessarily BuzzFeed's fault? Well, I'm not one to, I've been pretty upset with BuzzFeed. They have this huge list of employees they've published, and here's the response we can see from BuzzFeed. So Jeremy Barr, who is a writer at THR, formerly with Politico, said, BuzzFeed management responded internally tonight to the Medium open letter signed by 350 employees demanding that the company pay out earned time off. We are open to reevaluating this decision. They said, we would like to have a dialogue with the new staff council and staff from other departments on paid PTO payout. We are open to reevaluating this decision, but we think it is important for everyone to understand the trade-offs in changing the PTO practice, how we came to the decision to offer everyone a minimum of 10 weeks salary, and the ways we've adjusted our severance to be fair and competitive in every state we operate. We will follow up soon with next steps so a representative group of employees from across the company can meet with Jonah and me about this. You'll hear from us by the end of the day, Monday, on scheduling and the next steps. It sounds like everybody got 10 weeks salary and a fair severance package. Some places don't give you severance at all. But it looks like BuzzFeed said, okay, maybe we can structure this in a certain way that we, will get a net benefit in the end. And if they choose this, it could benefit them as well. I haven't seen anything from their post or this on unlimited days off, but I saw I believe it was a BuzzFeed journalist saying that they were exploiting them by offering something like unlimited time off because they knew no employee would take it. And thus when they left, they wouldn't get any paid time off. But this, in my opinion, is a really good example of the entitlement of people in general, right? If you're getting laid off, you're losing your job, and they offer you 10 weeks salary, welcome to the real world. There's no infinite money. It's crazy to me that people working for these companies, okay, they're operating off venture capital, they are not profitable, they have massive revenue, but their costs are really high. They don't realize then that revenue is not profit. They form unions, they join unions, and then they demand more benefits. So what happens? Layoffs. I have warned many people in media about this. I remember when one company was unionizing, my friend was all excited for it, and I said, listen, you will be laid off once this union happens, okay? I am not opposed to collective bargaining, and I am not opposed to unions, but I recognize you work for a company that doesn't make money. You have no leverage. If you work for a company that's got profits that are massive, okay? Massive profits. And then you go to the boss and say, we want our fair share of those profits. They'll probably say, okay, they go on strike. We're making a ton of money. I want to keep making a ton of money. Okay, I'm willing to shave off a little bit of the profits to help the employees, to satiate, to appease the employees, right? Makes sense. But let's say you're at a company that's operating at a deficit and running off venture capital. And the employees come out and say, we want more money. You're going to be like, I'm not making money off these people in the first place. This is going to hurt us more and drain us quickly. Sorry, you're all being laid off. Can't afford it. So what happens is, I tell my friend, you'll be laid off. Your company doesn't make money. These companies don't make money. You're running off of investors. When you unionize, the company will fire everyone, okay? Because at that point, it's like the costs have just gone up and we still don't have profit. Can't afford it. It's not union busting, okay? Sometimes it could be, but the point is they're just going to say, we can operate for 6 more months with these increased costs. Labor is too high. Just cut it loose now and try and figure out how we can survive with a skeleton crew. That's exactly what happened. Within, I think it was a month of the union forming, they were gone. No job, none, because the costs went up. And now they operate on a skeleton crew, producing the bare minimum because you need to be in the black. You need to have a net positive, and they didn't. So ultimately, I don't know the full details of what happened with Buzzfeed. I don't want to say they're wrong to ask for this because I don't really know. But to me, it just seems like now that they've all been laid off and got the severance, they're angry and they're demanding more. And the perspective, it would seem, from management is that they gave them a pretty fair deal. At least the employees accepted at the time of hiring, and now they're demanding more. But maybe Buzzfeed will pay out. We'll see what happens. Anyway, stick around. Next video is going to be at 4 p.m. at youtube.com/Timcast. I'll see you then.